same energy, yeah, yeah. Keep the same energy, keep the same energy, yeah, yeah. Keep the same energy, You ain't gotta like me, no. You ain't gotta like me, no.
REIT Ballers, we are back. It's M Glad. We are back for season 2, episode 1. I'm back with Spurlock. How are you today, sir?
Doing great, man. Out here in sunny South Carolina. Excited about season 2 getting on the way.
Absolutely. And even though it's episode 1, I feel like it's a championship already today because of our host. So I've done my pregame warm-up. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. We talked about it. We hinted a little bit in season 1. So our first guest is the CEO of Equinix, Mr. Charles Meyers. Super excited to have him. If you remember, season 1, he was assigned, or Equinix was assigned to Giannis. So that's a great draft pick from a REIT and an NBA perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Giannis is one of the front runners of NBA MVP going on right now.
I think Equinix is right there with them. So as far as data centers, we'll talk about it a little bit today, but Equinix, their job is to protect, connect, and power the digital economy. So a lot of companies that you use every single day, products and services, Equinix is the landlord. So those are the tenants, the businesses that you're accustomed to using every day. So for our audience, just so you know, they've had tremendous growth since inception. So they were founded in 1998. They converted to a REIT in 2015. They've had just a phenomenal growth story since. If you look on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, you can jump over to YouTube and just see the visual, just constant growth, crushing it. Even during the pandemic, they're up approximately 35%. And they had a big merger in 2002, which gave them exposure to China, Singapore, Australia, and Japan. 2007, $2 billion European expansion. Between 2010 and 2017, they tripled their data center portfolio. Talk about growth, Ken.
Definitely, that's huge.
Yeah, and now their current value is approximately $70 billion. Today I checked, they're hovering between number 3 and number 4 largest REIT out there across all property types. Maybe we're giving them a little good luck today. So their portfolio is over 200 data centers across 25 countries and 5 continents. And they recently released quarterly earnings where they had revenue for the quarter rose 6.5%. And funds from operation, which we'll talk about in season 2 a little bit, was $6.35 per share compared to estimate of $5.98. And they've just continued to crush analyst expectations the last 4 quarters. So again, great alignment with Giannis. On a personal note, Mr. Meyers is a Buffalo and a Wildcat. So he went to Colorado as well as Northwestern. And he's a fitness advocate, investor and advisor for portfolio companies of various fitness businesses. And lastly, I'll say in 2020, which is very impressive for me, Watermark Make Your Mark Award. Mr. Meyers was a recipient, and that recognizes leaders supporting women in the workplace. I could keep going, but and I saw you did an interview with Jim Cramer on Mad Money. So Spurlock, we have a lot of pressure on us today.
Let's do it.
Let's get him in here. So Mr. Meyers, officially, welcome to REIT Ball. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Welcome.
Thanks, Spurlock. It's great to be here today. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind intro.
Absolutely. We were thrilled when you said yes. So it's super exciting. So
I love that you reached out, and I think it's very cool that you're taking a show and combining some passions here between the real estate and sports, and giving people a little something to chew on mentally. So I'm happy to be here today.
Definitely.
Thank you. We hope that they can retain information a little bit better. It's digestible. It's not, intimidating. Sometimes real estate and finance can be intimidating. So we want to simplify it, make it entertaining, and hopefully, slightly innovative. And you're very familiar with innovation. So, I'll jump right into the Q&A if you don't mind. And, Equinix, they're the largest data center out there, right? So if you could just describe, a lot of our audience, they're more familiar with residential and hotels, things like that. If you could explain the data center business as well as Equinix as they continue to grow, are you more focused on direct acquisition of assets and development, or more an M&A play?
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because we became a REIT a number of years ago, and obviously we were mostly, tech investors prior to that. And so it's been a journey in terms of both educating REIT investors about our business model, but also us really learning to speak the language REIT investors and, talking about same store growth and talking about, AFFO and AFFO per share and all things that, we kind of had to adjust to as really, a significant part of the real estate landscape. But just to step back and answer your question, I often refer to us as the engine room for the digital economy. And, we across our portfolio of data centers, which you described, 200 plus data centers in 26 countries and 56 markets around the world. Inside of those data centers live some of the most important digital assets in the world. And so virtually every sort of digital brand name you can think of is a customer of ours, and a lot of the things you're doing day to day, whether that's streaming a movie on Netflix, trading a stock on on the NASDAQ, or or just checking internet and doing various other sort of online things, or doing a Zoom meeting, for example. All of those things happen because they're customers of Equinix, and we really help them interconnect their infrastructure, make that happen. So that's a little bit about what we do in terms of our growth strategy. I think it's a combination of organic growth and inorganic growth. We've used M&A as a weapon, pretty effectively. As you said, we've done a number of big transactions, and obviously with kind of where we're trading now, we have a strong currency to be using in M&A. And but we're going to be, we're going to continue to be very disciplined about our M&A and look for targets that are both strategically and financially attractive. And so it'll be a mix of those things.
Got it. No, that makes sense. It's impressive. Again, you have a great story so far, and I'm sure it will continue to go that way. So your thoughts on innovation focused REITs, right? We see REITs in general have been beat up, or the market has been beat up, but REITs, depending on the property type, has been beat up quite a bit. But when you look at the innovation centric REITs, they're trading at premium. So do you think it's a sign of the demand for digital expansion? Does this kind of indicate that we'll have a transformation in the overall REIT landscape and start to see more of these innovative REITs gain market share compared to the traditional REITs? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reflection of the changing face of our world, right? And I mean, if you look at it in terms of, this pandemic has really, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes about how things are changing and how many things can be done virtually. I think, obviously it's putting, I think, a real question mark around what the future of commercial real estate is, for example, in terms of, I know we're thinking, hey, do we need as much office space as we have? Can we streamline that to some degree? I personally still believe that being together personally, face to face, building relationships, collaborating is still an important part of business. And so I still believe there's a role for that. But, I also think that we're going to think about how we design our spaces, how we use them. And I do think it's all part of the changing sort of real estate landscape. And I think the more tech oriented REITs, both the towers, as well as the data center REITs, are really just riding, a wave of transformation in terms of a more digitally centric world. And so we're, as I always tell people, data is being created, moved, analyzed and stored at unprecedented rates. And I think that's going to continue. And I think it's, what's driving, our business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that said, work from home and right now, if you're on YouTube, this is your Milan, your latest announcement of was it a $51 million development that you're going to have in Milan?
Yeah, it's pretty for a data center, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And was it modular construction? Is that right?
That's right. We one of the things we're doing is trying to modularize the designs of our data centers to reduce the time to market. Obviously, in the real estate game, being able to sort of anticipate or be able to be responsive to demand in as short a time frame as possible is important in a lot of different markets, and it's certainly the case for us in data centers. So, modularizing the design and being able to prefabricate certain elements of the design is something we're doing. But we really invest in making these world-class data centers that are, a place that our customers can go and place their infrastructure with confidence, and also that their people, as they go and support that infrastructure, feel good about. And so we're very proud of our centers around the world for sure.
Absolutely, and that's a beautiful building right there. So just quickly going back to the work from home element. So I heard Green Street Advisors, they were talking about potentially the workforce currently 80% of employees go in Monday through Friday full time, and
Yeah.
that may, or I'm sorry, 85%. That may drop down to 60% based on their projections. So obviously, majority of folks still going into the office, but that does move the market, right? From a demand perspective. Now, does that directly correlate with your business as more folks are home and they're going to continue to have and need streaming services and online platforms to use? Will that be beneficial, continue to be beneficial for Equinix?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, I think that what you're seeing in the pandemic is companies that were well prepared for a more digital, fully virtual world are performing better than those that were not prepared. And so I think even in markets that are really being hard hit by the pandemic, whether that's travel, or certain other sectors, they are, I think that what they're seeing is that they need to continue to invest in digital, and digital transformation is a major priority. And so I do think that, this move towards the importance of digital is just going to be a sustained tailwind for our business.
Perfect. And along the lines of digital and prop tech and innovation and all those things, we're starting to see the initial phases of fractional ownership via tokenization and blockchain platforms. I'm wondering, will your data centers essentially support that underlying infrastructure at some point? Have you discussed it? And then also, do you think these digital capital market platforms for funding and filling the capital stack, will they at some point compete with public REITs?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that I think as it relates to things like blockchain and tokenization and some of those technologies, yes, we definitely play a role, particularly as you start looking at private blockchains and how they're implemented. I think, we're going to play a role in terms of housing some of that infrastructure. I think the initial entry point for some of those technologies is going to be more on the consumer side of things, unless our business is probably more oriented around enterprise customers as well as large service provider customers. So I think it'll be less impactful in terms of whether it's reframing the way that payments are made and payments are exchanged and those kind of things in our business. I think it's more going to be on the consumer side, but I do think we'll play a meaningful role in terms of housing some of that infrastructure.
Nice. Do you think that if those data centers that may house those digital currencies will cost more than your current data centers?
Well, there are some unique needs of things like, sort of Bitcoin mining and those kind of things. They tend to be really power hungry. And so they run at very high power densities. And so, but they often are really looking for lower cost ways to, process a lot of compute. And so sometimes that doesn't fit quite as well with the Equinix value proposition, where we're more of a premium player focused on interconnection and sort of digital, the digital transformation kind of elements of what people are thinking about. But there are data centers that focus on those opportunities, which are really high intensity bandwidth, where they're trying to get lower power costs and less of a complex networking requirement. And so there is segmentation in the data center market around that.
And along the lines of power, I saw at the end of 2019 that I believe it was 92%, you achieved 92% renewable energy, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting that, that's becoming one, we believe that as one of the larger consumers of power on the planet, we ought to be, it's our responsibility to do that responsibly, right? And we have to look out for the future of our future generations and of the, future of our planet, so to speak. And so, we're very focused on making sure that we're focused on sustainability and being a responsible user of power, and very proud of the progress we made in terms of achieving 92% on the sustainable side, and our target is 100%.
Awesome. I think we're gonna Kent, you're gonna wrap up the last REIT question, then Mr. Meyers can hop off the hot seat and we can get into our final sports debate.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Meyers, and 2020 has been an extremely challenging and historic year for obvious reasons. as a CEO of a publicly traded company, how do you effectively lead your team during times of heightened uncertainty and emotion?
Whew, it's a great question. It's certainly been top of mind. I mean, it's an emotional time for people. I think, particularly as I think we went into it and people believed that, okay, hey, we're going to rally around this. We're going to sort of respond to it. It's going to be a short-lived thing, and then we'll be out of the woods. And now we look at it, and this isn't maybe a 100-yard dash. It's quite a bit longer race, right? And so, but what I found is the critical thing in leading people and leading companies is really getting people inspired and energized around what they do and the importance of that. We talk about, a couple elements of our culture that are, really important to me is one, we show up with an in-service to mindset. We talk about being a mission-driven organization. I think what we're doing is important to the future of the world. It's important to the ability for our kids and our grandkids to continue to have a higher quality of living and to leverage the benefits of technology to make a better world. And so, getting people's heads wrapped around the importance of that mission, and then talking about doing that in a way that's in service to each other, in service to our customers, trying to help them run their businesses better, and in service to the communities in which we operate. One of the things that's talked about a lot is what the role of the corporation is in today's modern world, on issues of social importance, for example. And I tell you, we're grabbing that and being active because we believe that corporations play a significant role in helping address some of the social issues that we have out there. And so, the last thing I'd talk about is really, I think, creating energized people around a mission. One of the things I talk about when I took the CEO role is creating a culture where every day, every employee can confidently say three things: I'm safe, I belong, and I matter. If you can, those are just central things to really getting people inspired and engaged. If they feel a level of safety and of course, physical safety. And, it used to be, hey, that wasn't an issue, right? But now we're talking about things like COVID and other things. And all of a sudden people are, questioning whether they're safe physically, but they also want to be safe emotionally. And I think you need to make room for them, to be that and to show up, with as they're and bring their whole selves to work, And second, I belong, which is that, everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. And third, they want to matter. We all want to make a difference, right? We want what we're doing. We want it to make a difference to people. I love the fact that you guys are doing something that people are going to benefit from, learning about real estate investing, and doing it in a format that allows them to, wrap a little fun and some passion for sports around that. I think that's super cool. And I love that. I'm sure it allows you to say, hey, what I'm doing matters. And so that's some of the things that have really been driving people as we go through a pretty difficult time.
No, I think that's all powerful. Sorry, Spur, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why we really enjoy what we're doing. Mark and I, we've talked to a lot of people who never even knew what a REIT was and how they could get into real estate without, providing a down payment and things of that nature. So, I mean, we love the fact that we can educate folks on how they can invest in real estate just by opening up their phone or their computer and purchasing shares.
Well, and there's a lot more to it. I think people, when they initially hear about, investing in real estate, they're like, oh yeah, well, real estate, buildings or, houses or whatever. Man, there's a lot of, when you really start to look at the REIT landscape and how many different types of players there are, and the differences in the business models, there's a lot of education to be had. So you guys are doing something important for people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So you are officially off the REIT hot seat. So,
all right.
So you did well. You did well, and thank you again. It speaks volumes to you as a leader, and I'm sure in your culture at Equinix. I did a lot of research, when looking up stats in your bio as well as Equinix, and I can tell it's a great place for folks to work. And it speaks volumes to you being the first CEO to hop on, right? I mean, we're fairly new. It's not like, hey, 10 other CEOs have come and you're like, yeah, I'll just be, number 11. So I think it says a lot about you and that our values are definitely aligned, and we appreciate your time again. So definitely want to make it a tradition to end on a fun note. And I think what's the topic, Spurlock? What are we going with?
Well, as everyone knows, Equinix was attached to Giannis. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to talk about all the greatest international players of all time and where we think Giannis will fall on this list. For those that are not on YouTube, I will go ahead and describe the image that we have on the screen. We currently have a list of 10 international players. I'll run down the list of where they have them. They have Dirk Nowitzki as number 1, Hakeem Olajuwon as number 2, Steve Nash as number 3, Pau Gasol as number 4, Tony Parker as number 5, Manu Ginobili as number 6, Yao Ming as number 7, Dikembe Mutombo as number 8, Giannis as number 9, and Detlef Schrempf as number 10. So I mean, I personally think 1 and 2 with Dirk and Hakeem can flip flop however anyone feels. I mean, they both had long careers, both I think 18, 19 years each between the two of them. Dirk obviously played for one team his entire career. Olajuwon played for one team for the majority of his career. There was that end of his career, I think, where he got signed by Toronto for a year, but I mean, he was definitely on Houston forever. So I guess the big question is, with Giannis already a one-time MVP, potentially a two-time MVP this year, where can you see his career go as far as on the list, on this list?
Does Equinix / Giannis go to number 1?
I love it. You know, first of all, I was telling you, we were talking before we came on air, and I was saying that I love the fact of Equinix being associated with a superstar like Giannis, and you know, we're proud to be an MVP ourselves in many respects, and being associated with him is awesome. So, but if he stays healthy and continues to have the kind of duration in his career that some of these other guys did, I think that the sky's the limit, man. It's this is a very impressive list when you look at the international players, and obviously Dirk and the Dream. These are some of the best players of all time. I personally have a soft spot for Manu, and even though maybe his stats don't jump out at you in the same way, I think his ability to impact a game or a series, his tenacity, he'd be higher on the list for me, but because I just don't think it's necessarily just about the stats. And so I think, to be honest, if he can, continue to shape his leadership and his ability to impact beyond just the stats, and he can stay healthy, I think he's up there in the Dirk and the Dream.
Yeah, I mean, I have a soft spot, as you mentioned, for Pau Gasol. I'm a lifelong Laker fan, so I'm going to represent them whenever I can. I think Gasol has more international, I guess you can say, awards than anybody else on this list, being what he did in Spain in the Olympics and in the Euro basketball leagues. I think he has, two silver medals, a bronze in the Olympics, which kind of, I don't think anybody else on this list, maybe Manu has placed in the Olympics before for Argentina, but I think that's where I think Gasol's definitely should be up there. As far as Giannis, Giannis needs to figure out how to shoot the ball outside of 10 feet. I think that's where his team is going to excel. We saw last year where Toronto was able to guard him. I mean, all you need is some bigs and some wings that can play defense, and then he kind of gets lost to where he can't back down in the hole anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see at what point in his career he can develop a shot outside 10 feet to where he can actually climb this list. I mean, the fact that he might be a two-time MVP, I think if he puts a championship ring on his finger, I think that's automatically going to make him climb.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's partially about if people can figure out a way to shut you down, then obviously you have trouble climbing this list. Some of these players have really they adapted their games in ways that, it was hard to figure them out and hard to shut them down. And so I think Josh needs to, continue to work in that regard. And I think part of it is also around who's around you, right? Let's face it. Some of these guys had pretty incredible, casts around them. I will say Dirk didn't necessarily always have that. Akeem had some really great teams, certainly, and but part of it is there's no doubt about it, particularly in basketball, that supporting cast makes a big difference.
Definitely. Mark, want to add anything or?
No, I'm a big Kent will tell you I'm a big underdog fan. So I do like your point about Ginobili. I feel like he was underrated in a lot of aspects and always contributed. Showed up when it meant, when it was time for business. So I love that about him. But I think, I'm going to go with Nash since he hasn't been talked about. Little guy, but one of the best point guards, in my opinion, to play the game. And, I don't know that he's number one here because naturally, Dirk, like you said, didn't have a amazing supporting cast all the time. But like I would put my player as far as the little guy or the underdog, I'm going with Nash.
Yeah, playmaker extraordinaire for sure, and a hell of an athlete, off the court as well.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Meyers, while we have you here, who's your favorite basketball team?
It's funny. I spent a lot of my life in Colorado, and so I'm a Nuggets fan. And it's been fun to watch the sort of revitalization of the Nuggets. They were kind of cellar dwellers for a while, but they've had, what I loved is they've had success building up teams, without, spending huge amounts of money, but, sort of identifying players, pulling them together, and really, putting a team on the court that's got some chemistry and gelling together. Nuggets are probably the ones I'm watching.
Yeah, I love what the Nuggets been doing, especially with the last couple of years with draft picks. Just the fact that Bol, they were able to get him at late in the first. Michael Porter, who's been putting up 30-point games a lot since they entered the bubble. So I think Denver is going to be a team to watch over the next 5 years.
For sure, yeah, and they've had a fun had a fun brand of basketball. It's been changed a little bit, but it's fun to get out there and watch it for sure.
And with the final minute, we will respect the 30-minute rule. So last minute, we will thank you again, Mr. Meyers, for joining us. You will be our first honorable REIT baller. We'll have to find some type of ball or plaque or something, right? And we'll always remember you as the first CEO who joined. That meant a lot to us to get this kicked off. We really want to just bring awareness to folks who can't afford traditional real estate investments and also have more transparency and protection as they start to learn real estate. Might as well count on folks with decades of experience. So hopefully we can kind of share that value and that information with folks. And we're going to allow you to drop, and then we will finish talking about REIT fundamentals for the audience and a couple other updates. But thank you again. We hope to stay connected with you, and we appreciate you joining our show.
It's awesome to be here. I'm very happy to blaze the trail. I hope you guys have plenty of other CEOs come and join you on the show. And again, I admire what you're doing, and I admire you reaching out and asking me to be on the show, and really enjoyed it. So you guys keep doing great things, and hopefully we'll connect again sometime.
Awesome. We're super grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you. All right, so we will keep going with that. Again, that was Charles Meyers, CEO of Equinix Data Center. He was tied to Giannis in season 1. And for season 2, for everyone who's just listening, I did want to recap some REIT fundamentals. And then Spurlock, you can give a quick NBA update. Maybe you jump off a couple minutes of NBA update, and then I'll go into recap some of the fundamentals we went through season 1 just to catch people up. And then also we'll wrap it up with what to expect through season 2.
Gotcha. Works for me. So let's get into the NBA bubble. What's been going on? I think we've finished 1 week of NBA basketball. It's been exciting to see everyone back on the court. I think I want to go ahead and talk about who I think is the week 1 all-team NBA bubble team. We're going to go ahead and bring up a visual for the folks on YouTube. I love this list. I saw it on the internet, thought I'd take it and talk about it. All bubble team after week 1. They got Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, your boy Dame, TJ Warren, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid. These 5 players have been playing basketball out of their mind, especially TJ Warren, who dropped 53 points one game and then followed that up by 2 30 pieces.
Yeah.
Just to let everybody know, it wasn't luck. And TJ Warren has an interesting story. I mean, he even came out and said he was traded for cash considerations. So when he dropped that 53 points, he said, "I'm definitely worth more than cash considerations, and this is why."
Yeah, so, no, that's huge. Again, the underdog story. I love it.
Exactly. And even recently, Devin Booker had that buzzer beater. I don't know if you saw that buzzer beater over the LA Clippers the other night, right in Paul George's face. That's been an ongoing thing the last couple of years, of people hitting buzzer beaters in Paul George's face. Your boy Dame did it last year when he waved off the court. So, definitely, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. The Lakers have clinched the number 1 seed in the West. Nobody else. The Bucks will probably clinch in the next couple of days. I believe 7 teams. No, I believe, yes, 7 teams in the East have clinched the playoffs already. 6 teams in the West have clinched the playoffs already. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over these next couple of days to see who can finally get into those 8 spots.
Yeah, no, definitely. I saw a little bit. I haven't seen too much, but I did see when Dame played. What game was it? I actually sent you a text. I forget what game it was, but he was out of his mind. They ended up losing, which was sad. But like, they came back from a major deficit.
Against Houston, wasn't it? No, might have been Houston. I'm not sure.
I can't remember now, but it was great. It's been entertaining so far from what I've seen. Let's jump into. Thanks for that update.
One more thing. I want to give honorable mention to that, just to highlight this game that Luka had. Probably one of the biggest stat lines we've seen in a while outside of what Westbrook did last year. But 34 points, 20 rebounds, 12 assists. That just lets you know that the NBA is in good hands going forward.
Yeah, Equinix type numbers, man. Equinix type numbers. So real quick, thanks for the update. I'll do a recap, just fundamentals, very broad, a couple minutes. So season 1, we've talked about various, like, the mechanics of investing in a REIT. So if you circle back to the beginning, we talked, you invest into this basket. So if you think of a grocery store and you're grocery shopping, each aisle is a different property type, and you're going in and you're getting stuff from, dairy section or from whatever section, going through these different aisles, and you assign that to a property type. So the idea is you have a bunch of different items or a bunch of different properties within a property type in that basket or that REIT. So, we just talked about data centers. Equinix has a bunch of data centers, over 200 around the globe. And that's all in a basket of one REIT that you can buy shares in. And at that point, you have ownership and interest in this real estate portfolio by investing in the shares online, whether it's a Robinhood app or whatever brokerage account you use. We have no affiliation with any of them, but whatever makes sense for you. Same thing for residential and office, retail, industrial, you name it, whatever you drive by and you look and you see a big building that seems interesting to you, it may be part of a REIT and you may be able to own it. You never know. It's all about just digging in and figuring out the research, figuring out who owns it, and things like that. And how it works is you invest. The management team, like Mr. Meyers and his team, they essentially operate this portfolio. They have the revenue. They try to increase the revenue. They try to minimize their expenses. And the remaining profit, 90% of it has to get distributed out to you as an investor for your shares, right? So it's not one of those things where you get just a small fraction of what you've invested in, you literally get at least 90%. That's cash flow, right? So how they work, it's REITs will have a dividend yield. So essentially you'll get, whether it's 5%, 3%, 6% a year in income plus appreciation as that portfolio and as the assets appreciate. So that's how it works from just a broader description of REITs. Again, real estate investment trust, and they were designed in 1960. They're for our audience, the folks that we're trying to reach out to who have been passionate about real estate and felt like they had to save thousands of dollars. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can get started by getting a small portfolio of REITs as a portion of your overall investment strategy. So any kind of broader fundamentals you think that I missed, Sprout?
No, I think you covered them well. Maybe you want to go over the whole dividend thing again, just so people understand how that works.
Sure. So if a REIT is, say, $100 per share, and you have a 5% yield, or the value of that REIT is $100 per share, they pay out 5% of that per year. So if it's $5 a year, they may do it quarterly. A couple of them do it monthly, but primarily it's going to be quarterly or twice a year that you would get paid out that total of 5%. And then in addition to that, you have the appreciation, and that's how you factor in your total return, the income plus the appreciation.
Gotcha.
So that's it for the fundamentals of repo. And then we talked about leverage. REITs, for the most part, have less debt than private owners. Private owners, when say you and I go to invest and own an apartment building, we may have anything from 75 to 85% leverage or debt on that property. So if a few tenants move out and we have a small building, it may be hard for us to service or pay that debt, pay that mortgage payment. And then that's how we become distressed. You may have to sell it, foreclosure, potentially, things like that, especially during a crisis, where you have REITs that have much less leverage, right? So if you think about 50% leverage or 50% debt compared to 80% debt, they just have a lot more wiggle room to go through unexpected downturns in economic cycles. So that's just, these are bullet points that we talked about, I think the most important, and we'll continue to dig in a little bit more and talk more about REITs and the fundamentals over time. For season 2, the format's changing a little bit, so we will make sure that we have several portfolios, that each portfolio does include each property type. So we make sure that we go across all property types throughout season 2. We hope to have great real estate leaders and executives like Mr. Meyers on our show as well, do more interviews. As well as in between the longer podcasts of the hybrid of the entertaining piece of sports / real estate and REITs, we're going to have smaller, you can call them coffee talks, you can call them mini REIT ball sessions on YouTube and podcasts, where there may be like 10 minutes or so to talk about REIT fundamentals if you're looking for a quick just real estate or REIT update and lesson, without having to go through our longer program of, say, 45 minutes to an hour. So we are going to continue to release and drip more and more content about the real estate market, REITs overall, and the fundamentals. But that's all I have for the REIT updates. Do you have anything else before we go to final thoughts?
No, I think we covered everything. Everyone out there, make sure if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button. Go ahead and help that algorithm to let folks that need to know this information pop up on their phones. So go ahead, subscribe and like.
Absolutely. And real quick before final thoughts, one thing I did miss out last season, season 1, we were talking about a monthly membership of $10 a month, a total of $120 a year, and then you get the weekly newsletter. Instead, we're going to do the work to try to partner with sponsors. So we're going to go to different corporations and see if there'll be a sponsor for REIT to cover your essentially your annual $120 membership. And that way, it won't eat away at your returns at all. It's going to be purely free, educational, informative information every week about the real estate market, about any big transactions, about a REIT of the week, talking about a specific REIT detailed, and just building blocks. And so we'll work with sponsors. Forget about hey, you have to pay $10 a month. It's our job to partner. We don't want this to be an expense thing for you. We want it to be an educational thing for you, an opportunity. So that's all I have. And then let's just jump right into final thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
Definitely. My final thought is going to be going back to the NBA bubble. We talked about him briefly earlier when Mr. Meyers brought up the Nuggets. I want to highlight what Michael Porter Jr. has been doing. This kid got hurt in college. He got hurt when he was drafted in the NBA. So Denver's kind of taken that slow approach with him. But everything is coming together at the right time to where he's had 2 30-point games, 12 rebounds, and a 15-rebound game. Like I said earlier, it's dangerous to what Denver is going to be doing over the next couple of years between Michael Porter, Bull, the Joker. They have some bigs. Denver can literally put out a starting 5 of everybody over 6'9". They have those many draft picks and people that are that versatile to where they can have a 6'9" and up starting lineup and dominate the NBA. So it's going to be interesting to see. So like I said, congrats to Michael Porter for overcoming your injuries. I love to see you out there. I love to see what you're doing, and can't wait to see what's in store for you in the future.
Very cool story. Again, underdog theme. I love it. So my final thoughts. My thoughts and prayers go out to the folks in Lebanon, Beirut. Of course, they had an explosion, a major explosion this past week, and just awful news. I mean, it's such a beautiful, beautiful country and beautiful city. So we have a picture up. If you've never seen Beirut, they're not always on the radar, but I think that they've just been hit so hard between war, economic fallout, and then now this, right? And I just really am truly thinking about the families there, hoping they're okay, hoping, for the folks who did lose family members, our thoughts are with you. And just, those are my final thoughts, is sending positivity to everyone in Lebanon.
Definitely.
So in closing, I will say, hey man, we did we've officially kicked off season 2, episode 1. Season 1, fully transparent for everyone listening. It was raw. Where every episode, the goal is to get better. And I just hope that anyone who has something they're passionate about, whatever your purpose is, if you overplan, you'll never be able to achieve what you're dreaming about, right? Or what you're passionate about. So with us, we had it. I said, hey, here's an opportunity. I really want to protect folks who are getting into real estate for the first time and know that there's more than just potentially buying a small property themselves one at a time and taking on that risk and everything else, that they could have this diverse portfolio. That was more important to me than us ironing out every kink. So I'll say thank you, Spurlock, for also sharing the vision with me. We continue, I think, every episode to get better. Hopefully the audience will appreciate the progression, and we'll continue to take notes and feedback and just continue to share information. But that's all I have, REIT Ballers. I'm so glad that you are listening to REIT Ball Again Season 2. Spurlock, what do you have? Any final words?
Just the same. Subscribe, like, and comment. Let's convince that algorithm that everyone needs to see this.
That's how we get out there. So we need your support as much as we're trying to support everyone with the information. So thanks again. That's all I have. I'm glad with Spurlock. REIT Ball, we're out.
Thank you. We're out.